I'm Tommy Hatton. Thanks for coming out, and I'm pumped to share a little bit of my story. Purpose. What is purpose? I believe one of the core fundamental bases of a human being is discovering what grants you purpose in life. Some people search their whole life to find that thing that grants them purpose, and they're unsuccessful. Some people find it at a young age. But for me, the game of football provided me my purpose. Football was all I cared about for a very long time. It defined my progress in life. When I was out on that football field, I felt like I could achieve anything. I was on top of the world. Football blessed me with so many great opportunities, which have helped mold me into the man I'm working to become. Growing up my whole life, it was a dream to play big-time Division I football. I was blessed to grow up with two unbelievable parents, which is honestly the reason I'm standing in front of y'all today. While my parents were very supportive and they helped me get to where I am today, they were not those parents that tried to live their admirations through me. All the hard work and sacrifice that I endured were strictly because I wanted to. I sacrificed endless weekends in high school when my friends were out, doing what high school kids like to do, partying, to drive 2 hours away from home, to train with some of the best kids in the country. I did this because I wanted to be the best at whatever I did. When I got to UNC, from the day I stepped on campus, my goal was to make an immediate impact. My ultimate goal one day was to play in the National Football League. When I was a sophomore in high school, I hung a poster above my bed that read in block letters, "I will play in the NFL." The reason I did this was so every morning when I woke up, I could look up and see those words, and it would motivate me to outwork my competition every single day. Growing up every Saturday, I would watch college football on TV with my dad. I knew at a very young age that being a big-time Division I football player was what I wanted to do. I fell in love with those hostile crowds booing you as you're running out of the tunnel and throwing beer bottles at you from the stands. This is what I portrayed my ultimate purpose to be. In my redshirt freshman year, I earned the honor to start against the Georgia Bulldogs in the historical Georgia Dome. It was a dream come true. I was living out my childhood dream, but never did I imagine I would feel so empty. After that Georgia game, it was like I almost forgot who I was. Football always brought me great passion and joy. I loved everything about the game of football, not just the physical portion of working to dominate your opponent for 4 quarters straight, but the camaraderie you share with your teammates who come from such different backgrounds with one goal, and that's to win on game day. But after that Georgia game, I felt like I had lost that. This was not just an instant epiphany. I'd been feeling this for close to a full year, and I always told myself, keep pushing, you're good, this is just a little funk. But after that Georgia game, I couldn't even will myself to get out of bed. So I went and consulted with our team chaplain, Mitch Mason. I told him how I was feeling, and we came to a conclusion that it was best for me to step away from the team. I never really talked to anybody about how I felt. I thought in doing so, it would make you weak. I always just told myself I could get through this. And to even think about talking to a shrink, no way, I couldn't will myself to do so. But at this point in my life, I knew I had no other choice. Stepping away from the team was the hardest decision I ever had to make. But honestly, my teammates were so unbelievably supportive and helped me immensely during this time. I was embarrassed to tell people what was going on with me. For people outside the football circle, I would tell them I was injured and that's why I couldn't play. In the 2 weeks I was away from the team, I got to work with the unbelievable Dr. Shannon. We started to analyze why I was feeling the way I did, why I was so depressed, why I was so anxious. We came to the conclusion that I put this immense pressure on myself to perform at the highest possible level. And I felt like if I wasn't performing at that level, I was letting people down. And honestly, this forced me to hate myself and hate the game that I put so much into it. When I sat back and thought about the way I was thinking, I realized 2 things. 1, I didn't owe success to anybody but myself. And 2, the people in my life that loved me didn't love me because of my football success, but for the man that I was. This seems like a pretty easy thing to understand, but at this point in my life, it took some work and effort. After that 2-week hiatus, I was back with the team. I came back just in time to play the number 12 Florida State Seminoles on the road in Tallahassee. Nick Weiler kicked a 54-yard field goal, and we won that game as time was going out. We ran around the field that day, and it was a party. We were up in the locker room. It was unbelievable. After that game, I went on to start every other game the rest of the season. I even earned ACC Player of the Week for my efforts against Virginia and was named a freshman All-American. When I look back on that season and reflected, I felt like my stint with mental health was over. I fought that beast head on and I won. No more depression. I was back on top of the world. I was ready to live out that childhood dream. Going into my redshirt sophomore year, I was poised for a breakout season. I felt like in my redshirt freshman year, I showed a little bit of the player that I could be, but my redshirt sophomore year was all about making that dream come true. It was August, and training camp was about to roll around. And for once, I was actually excited for the grind that training camp entails. For you guys that don't know, training camp's a 3-week process where we stay in a hotel and do wall-to-wall football. We wake up at 6 in the morning and we're grinding at the stadium till 10 at night. As you can imagine, this sucks. But, but I was actually pumped because I was pumped to get with my teammates and start working hard and get ready for the season. It was the 3rd day of practice. I was running out to Keenan Stadium, and I was really excited. It was a hot Carolina day, pretty humid. Not the best for offensive linemen, but hey, we're gonna get through it. Gearing up for the first team hitting period, inside run. I'm in the huddle, and Nathan Elliott calls 26. I jog up to the line of scrimmage. I look at the front side linebacker who I'm gonna block. I get down in my stance. Nathan says hit. I pull around. The linebacker meets me in the hole and hits me in the side of the head. It wasn't a hard hit, but it was just enough. 9 hours later, I woke up in Chapel Hill Hospital with a towel over my eyes. I looked down, and I was still in my knee braces and cleats from practice before. I realized at this time, I just received my 4th concussion, and this time, it was serious. Over the next couple weeks, I was not a functioning human being. I had to wear sunglasses inside because the light was so unbearable to my eyes. I had to avoid loud rooms because the noise would cause me to get instant migraines. I was confined to a dark room for what felt like an eternity. I had terrible vertigo, which is these strong spinning sensations that could last up to 6 hours. And the dark room was the only place where my symptoms would remain moderate. But as you can imagine, I was stuck with my thoughts. And as the weeks went on and my symptoms didn't get better, I started to get more and more depressed. Fumbling in the back of my mind, I was thinking about, at some point, I'm gonna have to make a decision about my future playing football. This forced me to almost not want to get better because I never imagined trying to make a decision like that, and I sure as heck didn't want to. Over the next couple months, I did intense rehab to get myself better. I worked with a vestibular therapist to help with the vertigo. I did vision therapy, and by December, I was back to being a functioning human being. I was able to go to class, I was able to read, I was able to do all those things. It was December at this point, and I started to meet with the neurologist about my future. They all had the same message to me. Continuing to play football would be suicide. Dr. Guskowitz, who's now the chancellor here at UNC, told me, if you were my son, I would not let you play anymore. Those strong words really hit home for me. My parents came up to meet with Dr. Carnero and Dr. Guskowitz at the Goodfeller Center in December. At that point, I knew my future of playing football was over. The hardest part of the decision was giving up my dream of playing in the NFL. This was a dream that I wanted since I was a little boy. I put so much time and effort into making it happen, and for me to not even get the chance to do so, it really hurt. But I had to be realistic with the fact that continuing to play football would put me at great risk of brain damage. One day, I want to have a family. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want to see them grow up into fine, productive human beings. I didn't want a caretaker. I remember I was leaving Chapel Hill that December to go home to New Jersey, the great state, and I was leaving Chapel Hill, and as I was leaving, I just had this thought come to my head. I'm leaving here as a football player, and I'm gonna come back, and I'm not gonna know who I am. I was home in New Jersey, and I met with my mentor, Mr. Jim Tracy, who's a pretty successful businessman. He told me at this point, he was aware of the situation, and he told me I had two choices. One, I could either lay down and feel sorry for myself, or get up and continue to fight. At that point, I made up my mind. I would never feel bad for myself. I would never use this situation as a crutch. I would use this situation for future adversity and relate back to how I got through it. But still, at this time, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my purpose. Football had been my purpose for so long. So when I got back to school, I realized I couldn't be 320 pounds anymore. So in 5 short months, I dropped 60 pounds. I started reading a lot more about upcoming technology and finance, and I started networking with career people and business professionals to learn about different career paths. In doing so, I met 2 unbelievable guys, Sasha Seymour and Andrew Powell, who are former Tar Heels and currently at Stanford for their MBAs. Together, we've helped co-found a company called Learn to Win, and this has been some of the most exciting times of my life. So, right now, I'm still working to rewrite that poster over my bed. I'm not quite sure what it's going to say, but hopefully in 10 years, it'll say successful. I do not have all the answers right now, but a new fire is burning inside, and I'm really excited for the future. The reality is, for all of us, our sport's going to come to an end. Maybe you'll go on to play 10 years professionally, or maybe it'll end abruptly like it did for me. But even though this is a scary feeling, have confidence that you're way more than an athlete. When you guys go home, look up how many Fortune 500 CEOs were former student athletes. This is not just a coincidence. Playing athletics teaches you way more than just how to be good at your sport. It teaches you how to be goal-oriented, teaches you how to be competitive, and it teaches you how to work well with others. So currently, I'm still working to rewrite that poster over my bed, but let me tell you one thing, I'm excited for the future. Thank you guys so much for letting me share my story.